Welcome to the 2020-2021 school year. I'm Mr. Flores. I'll be teaching 8th grade social science to your student this year. In this class, we'll be covering everything from, the English settling the early colonies on the eastern seaboard all the way through the American Civil War. In this class, we'll cover the topics prescribed by the California State Standards pertaining to 8th grade U.S. history. In addition to that, we'll also be developing literacy. One of the key components to that is going to be having students analyze and synthesize class readings. And it's not just going to be the textbook. It'll be, related primary sources and other readings that are really going to make students think. And we'll have students develop written responses to develop those writing skills and be able to effectively communicate in an academic way. Students will also learn to make connections between historical events and concepts in the present day. As students are going to see, there's many issues that, were hot topics 100, 200 years ago that are still hot topics today. And, there are things in America's past that, are shameful and we are not proud of, and we have to make sure we learn from them and don't repeat the past. It is important for students to be on time. I do open the Zoom at least 5 minutes before each class. And tardies affect the tardy students' learning. Might miss something. It also affects the rest of the class if I have to keep, pausing and waiting to let students in. If a student is tardy, they will have to wait in the waiting room. We can't just let them in now because there have been issues with Zoom bombings in the district and at Clifton. And with these Zoom bombings, they are associated with inappropriate behavior, so we have to regulate who gets in. In fact, there was one class where I think someone was trying to Zoom bomb me, but because of the waiting room, I was able to thwart off that threat. So if a student is unable to attend an online meeting for any reason, whether it's connection issues or a scheduled absence because of an appointment or they're not feeling well, it is good practice to email the instructor for that student to just touch base and let them know, hey, I'm not going to be there. And the teacher might give them work to make up if possible, or say, hey, check the Google Classroom, let me know if there's any questions. That's just good practice for all your classes. If a student is having issues logging on to Zoom on a particular day, there are things that student can do to try to still attend the class and not to make things up, in the future after school. Try logging on with a different device. Sometimes it is the computer's issue. You have iPads and phones. On the iPad, you can still log into Zoom and the Nearpod simultaneously to follow along. If, you can't log into Zoom for whatever reason, you can always log into Nearpod on your phone with the data. Nearpod, I believe, takes up far less data than Zoom. So you can always log in and just follow along that way. You can still get all the information on the slides. You just may not be able to hear my voice. Again, you can always talk to me later if you want to know if you missed anything that I emphasized. So as I mentioned before, you can still follow along on the Nearpod. Also, other assignments. Since all assignments will be posted on Google Classroom, if you're having issues getting onto the Zoom, whenever the class starts, there will be usually an assignment there that'll be posted. And then you can also check again periodically, maybe halfway through the class or at the end of class, to see if any other assignments are posted that you can work on to stay up to date. It is a student's responsibility to make up work that is missed due to an absence resulting from any reason. And if there are any questions, the student does need to self-advocate and reach out and ask. Email is the best way to ask that initial question, whether it's, what did I miss, clarification on the expectation of assignment, or if there's reading, hey, I don't quite get this. Whatever that may be, shoot an email and we'll take it from there, whether I just respond via the email or I say, hey, show up to my office hours and we can discuss. In order to get the most out of Zoom meetings, it is strongly recommended that students turn their cameras on. That's, in addition to accountability, a major reason why we are having the synchronous meetings is so that students can have that interaction with their peers and, see their faces, see their reactions, along with their teachers. It's So it is strongly recommended that students have their cameras on during the Zoom meetings. One of the major reasons why we are having synchronous meetings is not just for accountability, but also for that cognitive development of having the first couple of assignments. I have had quite a few late assignments. We need to fix that. As we get to high school, teachers are going to be a little more strict with the late assignments. My target policy is in the syllabus, which is previously posted in the Google Classroom. And I still haven't heard a story of a professor that, in college level, if your student has aspirations of attending college, that accepts late work. So, and then as we all know in the real world, your boss tells you to have something by a certain date. We need to have that. So it's good practice to start learning to get things in on time. And homework in class will always reinforce topics covered in class. I don't think in a decade I've ever said, hey, read this on a topic we've never covered and we'll talk about it next time. So, it is distance learning. If it's, not a lot of misunderstanding things, it may happen, but for the most part, there shouldn't be a lot of misunderstandings because we covered in class. Plus, I'm always going to explain the assignment and set the expectations for the homework. If there are any questions, make sure you reach out before the submission date. That's just good practice. Plus, we don't want students to have double the amount of work after the next class because they have to make up the past work. Plus, they also need to do the following night's homework. If a student misses a class or has connectivity issues, they can attend office hours to make up the Nearpod. So in these presentations, the direct instruction, there are going to be questions throughout the slides and videos just to make sure students are paying attention. And, whether it's staying after class to say I need to make this up or whether it's shooting me an email, you can attend office hours and we'll go through that direct instruction and you can get those questions made up. We just got to make sure that it is the next office hours after that class since we're probably going to be having to do the previous two every office hour, so we don't want to get too far behind. Plus, we want to be on time since there may be multiple students that need to make up a presentation, so we don't want to keep them waiting. Here is a list of Clifton office hours. This is the school-wide schedule, so if there's ever any questions, feel free to drop by. In fact, I'm sure most of your teachers would love to have students drop by since we literally have to sit in front of our screens during these office hours with our cameras on. So, drop by, say hi, ask your questions. Here is the grading scale. I think the F is covered up by my little video. Hopefully that's not an issue for anybody, but if it is, it does say 59.99 and below is an F. Pretty standard grading scale. You can always check the syllabus too to see the percentages. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. There's my email. Looking forward to a exciting and definitely an interesting year that no one, I'm sure, ever fathomed having to experience at the middle school level. So again, if you have any questions, concerns, keep those lines of communication open and looking forward to making the most of this school year.